What's up, everybody? I'm Taylor, and I started this channel to share my personal recovery journey. And see, the thing about recovery is what people don't share about a lot is how painful it is. How painful it is to become sober, to become self-aware, and to become able to feel one's emotions. But most importantly, to see the truth in what I've become, right? That's painful, right? It's painful to get sober. It's painful. Well, the withdrawals are painful, but the most painful thing is to look in that mirror and to know the things that I did to hurt others, to hurt myself, to hurt my children, and the lives that I can't bring back, right? The relationships that will never be the same, the bridges I burnt. Everything that addiction offers is nothing but pain and suffering. But yet logically, I knew that. Logically, I knew that there were consequences. I knew that every time I picked up, something bad was going to happen. I knew that. And, you know, that's one of the main reasons I finally quit drinking, is because I had gotten to a place in my life where I had so much guilt, shame, resentment towards myself and towards others, and just in so much pain that every time I would drink, I would try to hurt myself or someone else. And it wasn't me. My addicted self was not who I truly was. And there's so many different vocabulary terms to describe, like true self, inner self, and all these things, right? But I just like to simplify it. I don't like to make things complicated. And the most hardest thing about getting sober was the fact that I had to do it alone. And I say that I had to do it alone because in my life at that very moment, I didn't have 12-step programs. I didn't have a support system. I had a husband and I had a toddler. I didn't have anyone who understood anything about what it was like to suffer with depression or anxiety or resentment or addiction. I had nobody. And so a person can only escape so much, and I believe a person can only mask for so long until their brain just shuts off. The brain's like, you know what? I can't take this anymore. This is too much pain. This is too intense. I need to go in survival mode and I need to shut off because the stress levels are so high. The pain that I felt was so intense that my brain made a choice to shut down, which caused depression. And see, the thing is that nobody understands like what depression feels like unless they have been through it. And I'm gonna be honest right now, and before I never really understood like what anxiety was and like what depression really was until I really started learning about it, because I really had never been around anybody in my life that like showed me those types of things, because everybody I knew was in active addiction. So it's like if I wouldn't have made the choice to start researching things and wanting to know like, hey, why am I wired like this? Like, what is wrong with my brain? What is wrong with me? And if I wouldn't have became open-minded and used Google and bought books and did research on YouTube, right? I had nobody to teach me. I had nobody to teach me. So I had to teach myself when I first got sober. And you know, the thing is what people don't realize is that unless they've been in active addiction and they're a parent, they don't realize that kids aren't enough. for a person to want to get sober. And it's, for me, I don't think it's so much, it's, you know, people are like, how can a mother do that to their child? Well, first of all, it's not directed at the child. You know, it's directed at the fact that the mother is broken and the mother has all this pain that she doesn't know how to cope with. The mother was not taught how to regulate her emotions or cope with pain, or even how to show up for herself, nevertheless show up for a child. So like, if a person isn't taught like how to love themselves and how to be like a nurturing mother, it's not just gonna happen. These skills have to be taught. And if these skills aren't taught, these skills have to be learned through learning the knowledge, taking the knowledge, applying it through action, through repetition, when our brain doesn't want to. So I've learned so much information from reading books. All the years I wasn't involved in a recovery program, and I started off in 12-step programs because that's all I knew. But I realized that there's a whole world of recovery programs. And this is my recovery journey. And this is what I've learned in my recovery journey. I've been to many different recovery programs, 12-step programs, Life Ring, Refuge Recovery. I'm going to try Recovery Dharma, Emotions Anonymous, Adult Children's of Dysfunctions, Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous. I've been to secular meetings. I've been to all these meetings, right? Because I just wanted to know, like, what's the common thing? Like, why do some people choose this and some people choose that? Why do some people choose to stay in AA their whole life? And why do some people choose to go further than that? What is so different? And I realized that it's fear. It's fear of the unknown, fear of uncertainty. At least that's what my conclusion of this is, because that's what it was for me. So I just assumed that if I was fearful, other people must be fearful. So I need to show empathy towards those people. I need to have an open mind towards closed-minded people, because I was closed-minded majority of my life. I had a little bit of an open mind, but I didn't have enough open-mindedness for me to get my shit together, for me to get sober, for me to want to learn a new way of life, for me to be stuck in the religious abuse that I suffered growing up. And if you don't know what religious abuse is, it takes all forms. And when a kid is constantly told that they're going to hell and they don't understand why, that is religious abuse. And I did not find that out until I was an adult. And that's the truth. And see, the thing is that for me, I've learned how to drop my childhood programming somehow. I've learned to separate my old beliefs from my new beliefs. I've learned to I've learned to like look at life through not just one lens, but 1,000 lenses. Me, stop. And my cat is attacking me because she loves me and I love this cat. But I've learned to open my mind to something larger than myself. And I'm not talking about God, I'm not talking about the universe. I'm just talking about life, right? And so, if all we ever knew was dysfunction and abuse and addiction, and we were never shown love or affection, if we never felt heard or seen or understood, then how can we expect to feel that as adults if we don't know how that feels? You know, and that's the thing about recovery, is learning to learn that right there. Learning to come to terms with, I don't know anything, right? Like I thought I knew about this world. I don't really know anything. And so I had to teach myself. And the way I was able to teach myself was to surround myself around people who could model to me how to love myself, how to treat myself, how to have healthy relationships, all these things. But see, for me, I talk about in another one of my videos is that I've always had intuition, like within me. Some people will call it God, intuition, higher self. There's so many different vocabulary words to explain what we're all trying to say, right? And I chose to ignore that intuition in my active addiction. I chose to not follow it. I chose to not listen. But today I choose to listen to it, because every time I listen to it, it always leads me the right way. It always leads me the right way. I recently had an experience, and I'm going to call it a spiritual experience because I don't know what else to call it. I took my cat to the vet for a checkup. Turns out she's just getting really plumped. And there was an older lady there, and I had sat my cat carrier like on the chairs. There was like 3 blue chairs, and I was going to check out, and the person in front of me had their cat carrier on the chair, and I was like, oh, I guess I'll put mine there. And then I saw this older lady walk up behind me, and she reminded me of my grandmother. And my grandmother passed away like maybe 2 or 3 years ago, something like that. And I noticed that she had a tissue in her hand, and I noticed she looked a little distressed. And so, out of respect for my elders, I picked up my cat carrier so she could put her cat carrier there, or she could sit down, because I was taught to do things like that. I'm from the South. And I noticed she didn't put her carrier down, and she walked to the side and off like by herself, and we're all standing by the checkout counter, and I just kept looking at her. And I'll be honest, I wanted to ask her, hey, is everything all right? But I didn't, because I was nervous. And instead of asking, I just kept like showing empathy. I kept showing concern, like with my facial expressions. And she connected eyes with me, and I connected eyes to her, and she just looked at me and she said, I had to put my cat down. And she was 16 years old. And this is a stranger, but I could feel her pain. I could feel her sadness. I could feel how alone she felt. And I started to choke up like I am now. And that little voice told me, just hug her. Just hug her. And I was so nervous to just hug her, right? I didn't know how she was going to react, but I listened to it. And I put my arms around her, and I hugged her the way I used to hug my grandmother. And it wasn't just a couple second hug. It was like a several minute hug, like holding her. And I realized in that moment I could feel this woman's pain. And I was holding in my tears, because I knew if I let the tears out at that moment in that vet office, that I wasn't going to be able to stop. And I had to be strong. I felt like I had to be strong. My daughter was with me, and she was just so grateful. Her whole demeanor changed and everything. And I was so grateful, because you never know when... I never know when I'm going to be of service, right? When I'm going to be a vessel for the power of life. And when I walked outside, I let the tears flow. I let the tears come out. Like, I held it in for like 10 minutes too, because I had to get something from the pharmacy. And I was crying a little bit. But like when I walked out that door, I knew it was safe enough for me to like cry. And I started like crying really hard, and I got in the car, and see, this is what recovery's done for me, right? I got in the car and I sat there in silence. I said, Taylor, what is wrong? Why are you crying so hard? Instant thought. Felt like I hugged my grandmother. She reminded me of my grandmother. And I started thinking of how alone my grandmother must have felt, which made me cry harder. And then I started thinking about the pain I had caused her due to my own pain, which made me cry harder. But the difference is I was able to acknowledge this pain and not ruminate or allow myself to shame myself or to beat myself down or to criticize myself. I was able to positive self-talk, and I was able to say, yes, you did hurt her, but I forgive you, Taylor, and she forgave you too. So I could have sat there, and I could have went right across the street to the gas station. I could have got a bottle of alcohol, and I could have drunk away my emotions like I used to before recovery, before healing. Actually, before I got sober. But I didn't, because today I can sit with the grief. I can sit with the pain. And I can allow the pain to just be pain. And this experience taught me that not only can I learn from other people, but I can learn from examining myself. I can learn from asking and challenging myself and really self-reflecting on, like, what are these emotions inside of me and why? Okay, now I know what's going on, so what am I going to do about it? There's like two choices I could have done in that situation. Like I said, I could have just freaked out. The addicted me, the miserable me would have just freaked out. And I even did so well as to, I was explaining to my spouse like what had just happened and like how intimate it was to me. And I'd sent him a text message, and like I was crying in the moment, because that was a really like intimate, personal, spiritual experience I had just had with this stranger. And this grief had came up, and I was feeling like all these types of emotions, right? And I was working through it. And all he could respond to was like, he said, why is there a second charge on the credit card? And I read it, and I just sat the phone down, and I acknowledged, and I realized he doesn't understand the pain I'm feeling, right? So the miserable me would have like started a whole bunch of drama, telling him how he has zero empathy and this and that, telling him about himself, because I felt hurt, because I felt unheard, unseen, and misunderstood. I felt like he lacked empathy for me in that moment. But I didn't react, because I knew he doesn't understand. People don't understand. And I just had to accept people for who they are. And that's just life. That's just people. And so the choices that I choose to make today are because of recovery. It's because of healing. It's because of the daily recovery schedule. It's because of the meditation. It's because of the inner work, the self-reflection. Like, I needed more than 12-step meetings. I needed more than just any recovery program. And for me, I'm learning that all my healing has been through action. It's been through making a different choice. It's been through the way I change, the way I talk to myself. Meditation. I never realized how important and how beneficial meditation was to a person's healing journey. And I would see like all these videos on YouTube about meditation and stuff, and I'm like, yeah, that's not going to work. There's no way. And a person doesn't really understand until they've experienced it for themselves. So the intention of me making this video is to show people how differently recovery is giving me the choice to deal with grief, to deal with guilt, to deal with painful memories from my past, you know. And before recovery, I didn't have choices. I did, but I didn't think I did. I didn't believe I did. I thought there was only one way to life. I didn't realize there were 1,000 different ways, 1,000 different paths I could have taken. But I needed people to show me how, because trust me, I tried to do it on my own for many years. Never worked. Never worked. So I hope this video can help someone else by me sharing my personal experience, because I know what it's like. I know what it's like to deal with emotions, with grief, with losing someone. I know the pain, and I've felt the pain. I've lived through the pain, and I'm learning to navigate and manage that pain without having to escape myself or distract myself. I'm able to sit with pain today, and I hope that you can find the power within yourself and the courage to be able to learn how to sit with your pain. You may already know how to sit with pain, but whatever you can learn from this video, I hope you can apply something from this video, or a seed can be planted that can plant something else.